Today's story is titled Flesh and Beak Cleaning Crew by Dry Evening 9650. The link to the story is in the description below. Please enjoy. Working in a cleaning crew at a science facility came with its perks. Company insurance, long vacations, amazing pay. What wasn't there to love? Well, besides cleaning up the projects gone wrong. Usually, it's mutilated monkeys or rabbits, and sometimes it's deformed piglets. They're always dead before I arrive, which I'm grateful for. The idea of cleaning up a project before it's euthanized makes my skin crawl. I'm not sure if I can handle putting them down myself. We were tasked to clean a location independent from the facility. Those kinds of jobs never came with a lot of information. The less we knew going in, the better everyone slept afterward. That was the company line, anyway. When we pulled up to the house, the street was already blocked off. A police car and an ambulance passed us on our way there. The house we pulled into was a nice suburban home, one story, with HOA-grade lawn care and colors of gray and white adorning the siding. The vehicle that met us was another company truck with a dump trailer attached to the back. It kind of reminded me of a smaller version of a Tonka truck, except this one had a vacuum attachment on the back. I stepped out of my truck and adjusted my respirator. My coworker met in the driveway. "Smell that?" Marty asked beside me. I could. Even through my mask, there was a faint metallic rot in the air, like old pennies and roadkill. "Yeah," I said. "This is going to be a long morning." The man in the passenger seat of Marty's truck followed us to the doorway of the house. Austin, the sampling department team lead, handed us a clipboard with our directive typed on it. "You'll gas the basement first," he said. "Compound is already mixed in the canisters." On the clipboard, under target material, it simply said, "Organic assemblies, avian configuration." Marty read it over my shoulder. "Avian configuration?" he muttered. "So, birds?" Austin responded with a half shrug, as if to agree but not confirm Marty's hypothesis. Instead, he pointed towards the house. "The family has been relocated. Your team clears the basement, remove all material, and load it in the transport bin. The facility would take over from there." "What exactly are we cleaning?" I asked. "Everything," Austin responded. He slapped the side of the truck. "Let us know if you fill this, and we'll bring you another truck. I'm going to start taping off the area." With that, he turned towards the cab of the truck and left us to get started. The sooner this ends, the better. The entrance of the house looked as pristine as the facility. White walls, wooden cabinets, and not a speck of dust in sight. The only thing that looked out of place was all the blood on the ground. A small trail down the hall, and another from the living room through the kitchen. We followed the second trail to the basement and made our way down the steps. The kitchen still had dirty dishes in the sink. A mug with orange juice sat on the table. Someone had left their backpack on the floor like they expected to come back. As we got closer to the basement, the smell of rot became stronger. As we descended the stairs, I shook my canister, ready to gas whatever was lurking in the basement. At the last available step, Marty and I took in the scene. The basement looked like a butcher shop had exploded. The flesh pool was about 2 feet deep, judging by the furniture. I crouched as well as I could in my suit and got a better look at the mess. It looked like the avian configuration label on our paperwork was because there seemed to be beaks, feathers, webbed feet, and eyes in the pond. They looked like toy ducks. Thousands of them floated in a thick red sludge. I sprayed the duck closest to my feet, and they seemed to hiss. Their reaction reminded me of vinegar and baking soda. The sludge stirred, a gurgling sound mixed with squeaks and furniture scraping the walls. The ducks that I sprayed shifted away from the steps, and a renewed set of gore sat in front of my feet. For a second, nobody spoke. Then Marty quietly said, "Well, that's new." We're used to cleaning up unimaginable horrors, but not alive ones. Our more educated colleagues are the ones who are supposed to kill the specimens, yet here we are. Then another duck opened a mouth where a beak should have been. "Gas!" I said immediately. Marty nodded and sprayed the face of the creature before its purple tongue could escape. The chemical came out as a pale yellow fog, and within seconds, the basement was filled with it. The reaction was immediate. The mass started screaming. Every small orifice hissed a different tune of agony. Hundreds of wet little voices wailing all at once, like broken instruments. Some of them tried to crawl over each other. Others spasmed in the sludge like dying fish. A few dragged themselves towards the stairs before collapsing halfway. We watched them for a while, spraying whatever tried to fight back. Marty glanced at me through his mask. "I'm never eating poultry again." The screaming stopped after about 3 minutes. The pulsating mass stopped shifting, and we waited another 10 minutes afterwards to ensure they were dead. Cleanup was disgusting, but simple. We waded through the mass inch by inch. Marty and I shoveled what the vacuum couldn't handle. Once they were dead, they were just meat. Heavy meat, sure, and weirdly warm. Some of them burst when you grabbed them. Marty vomited inside his mask after picking up something that had teeth growing out of its wing. By supper, the basement floor was visible again. What used to be white carpet was now stained dark red. Marty sprayed disinfectant across the walls. Whatever kid lived in the basement would not be getting their posters back. "All right," I said. "Let's pitch the rest." We loaded all the furniture into the truck and threw all other items into trash bags. By the time we were done, it was well after sunset, and the basement was barren. We had orders to clear the upstairs too, but that can wait for tomorrow. The facility was 2 hours away. Tall fencing, no windows, in the middle of nowhere. Typical sci-fi secret building bullshit. We backed the truck up to the loading bay, where a group of lab workers waited with clipboards and sealed suits. One of them tapped the side of the container. "Everything accounted for?" he said through his respirator. "As far as we know," Marty said. The man nodded. "Good. We'll handle the rest." They opened the bin, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then one of the scientists leaned closer. "That's strange." "What?" Marty asked. The scientist pointed. "They're moving." We all looked at the mass. At first I thought he meant settling, but then I saw it. A duck near the center twitched. Then another. Then something deeper in the pile shifted. A wet ripple moved through the entire mass. The scientist frowned. "That's not possible. The compound should have..." Before we could react, the scientist was snatched by tendrils coming from the mass. We only saw his legs sticking out from the trailer. Dozens of ducks snapped alert at once, mouths open, eyes blinking. One launched itself straight out of the bin and latched onto the scientist's helmet with a wet slap. He screamed as he tried to pry it off. Weird veins came from the duck's mouth and wrapped around the man's head, then his neck. Constricting so tight, we could see the seams on his suit splitting. Soon, his head was detached from his body. The entire container exploded with movement as the mound unfolded into a writhing swarm. Hundreds of duck things spilled over the edges and hit the concrete floor. One of the lab workers shouted, "Containment breach!" Too late. The swarm hit them. I saw one man disappear beneath a pile of screaming meat. Another slipped and fell while trying to run. Something with a stitched human mouth clamped onto his leg. Marty grabbed my shoulder. "Truck!" he said. We didn't look back. Behind us, the sound of tearing fabric and wet chewing echoed through the loading bay. As we reached the truck door, I glanced over my shoulder. The pile of ducks was still growing, rearranging itself around something large in the center of the mass. Something that was slowly pulling itself upright. Marty slammed the truck door. "What the hell? How are we gonna get out of here? His brown eyes wide with horror, and I'm sure my face mirrored his. I don't know. The trailer's still attached, and we don't have an opener for the door. I peered out at the scene around us. The ducks were busy tearing our co-workers to shreds. The man who had his head torn off was being drilled into like Swiss cheese. Lumps of duck sticking out of his body like ripe pimples. They were eating him. I turned back to Marty. Call HQ. We need backup. He fumbled with his phone and held it to his ear with shaking hands. Hello, it's Marty. 24612. Yes, cleanup crew. We need backup at the loading bay. Case, He grabbed the clipboard. Case 738 is going rampant. Yes, the aviation configuration. He was holding his head in frustration. We need help now. The loading bay is contaminated, and so far 3 employees have died. Bring heavy artillery. Test on their bodies. Just please get us out of here. He hung up after being told that reinforcements were on their way. We decided to keep the truck off and hunched below the windows. The mass hasn't gone after us yet. They seem to be busy feeding on our former colleagues. We sat there for around an hour when we finally heard the bay door open. I peeked up from the floor of the truck to a crowd of employees holding gas canisters and pistols. They sprayed the flesh blobs while shooting the ones advancing. It seemed like gunshots only separated the masses for a moment before they reconfigured and lunged again. Slowly, they herded the chunks of flesh away from the exit, cornering the mass into the back of the loading bay. We decided that this was our moment to escape. I nodded at Marty as we slowly opened our doors. Don't shoot! I yelled as I stepped out of the truck. We called about this earlier! Our hands were in the air, a sign of innocence. One of the agents in the back of the crowd said something indistinguishable, and soon Marty and I were being rushed by our co-workers. An agent on each side, holding us in place. We were guided to an ambulance outside the bay and shoved inside. What the hell? Marty yelled. The door we entered was locked. Great. We went from one metal box to another. I leaned against the wall, closing my eyes. We're probably compromised, I mumbled. Marty shoved his head in his hands. Fuck! I don't want to die! I opened my eyes and looked at him. You won't die. They'll run some tests, take some blood, and observe you for a few days. You've never been quarantined before? Marty matched my stare, a look of guilt creeping in. No, I've only cleaned the failed experiments. The non-contagious ones. I patted his arm and gave him a reassuring look. Well, this isn't my first rodeo. Just keep your head down and answer all of their questions truthfully. We were transported to the quarantine sector of the building, which used to be chambers for our ape experiments before PETA became a thing. Marty and I were separated for independent monitoring. This was no surprise to me. I've dealt with many cases where fluid, gas, or spores get on my suit, and I've grown used to the sterile room used to observe me. They provided books, TV, random craft projects, but I never stayed long enough to finish anything. This seemed to be a different case. I've been in this room for about 2 weeks. The only info I get about the situation is when I get my meals. The doctors are always kind enough to give me a status update, but they never linger too long or say too much. My symptoms started on day 2. My vision blurred, and I would get hourly headaches like clockwork. When I slept, I felt something tickling my eardrums, like a moth flying around my brain, trying to find light that doesn't exist. When my vision came back, I lost my hearing. The doctors kept monitoring me and let me know that my heart rate was abnormal. Ba-dump, ba-dump, ba-ba-ba-dump. They gave me a notepad and instructed me to write. So, here I am, writing about this experience. I think that they wanted me to write my will, but as a man with little possessions and even less family, I think the state can take care of my junk. I don't think my extended family would want my collection of baseball cards, and that's the only thing I own of value. I'm going to keep writing when things happen. I think they would like that. The doctors keep bringing me dog food. They made me a tray of dog food between hamburger buns. I couldn't eat that, so I asked for something else. They gave me a bag of chips, but when I opened them, the contents looked like peeled, sunburned skin. Oily and flaky and salty smelly. I decided to just drink water. I'm so bored. The cartoons on TV are all reruns, and I don't like the news. My toenails are getting long, but the doctors won't give me clippers. Fine, I'll cut them myself. I brought my foot to my mouth and started chewing. I woke up to my feet being wrapped. What the heck? If they cut my nails, I wouldn't have to chew them. I miss Marty. I saw him sleeping on a stretcher in the hallway. Lucky. I want to go outside. The doctors are mean. They took my walking and my hearing. I'm hungry, and I can't pee right. I can only write, I guess. I'm so hungry. I don't like the food they give me. It all looks weird. I don't want to lay down anymore, but I can't walk. I crawled around a bit, but my vision keeps being spotty. I miss my mom. She used to make really good breakfast. Pancakes are so good. I feel bad. My stomach hurts and I can't get up. I think I'm gonna nap.